Hi, I'm Kit McPherson from Maple Leaf Property Management. We've got Al Moreno with us today from Country Financial. Hi, Al. One of the questions we always get from our tenants is, why do I have to have tenants insurance? We do require that all of our tenants have tenants insurance, and often a tenant will come back and say, I just don't understand why I want to have it. So we thought we'd go to the pro here today and have Al explain to us why you need tenants insurance and what it does for you. So do you mind, Al?
Not at all. Happy to help. Yeah, we actually get that question a lot too. Why do I need renter's insurance? Probably 80% of the clients that come to us, for example, for an auto insurance policy, come in without a tenant insurance policy. So we're always having this conversation about the importance of the tenant policy. First off, it doesn't cost much at all to have, especially if you already have an auto insurance policy. So it probably costs you a couple bucks to add that on. But the big thing here that we have the conversation a lot is the loss of use coverage. And so a good example of that would be, let's say you're living in an apartment complex and your neighbor has an issue with a pipe burst and they're flooding through your ceiling up above you. If you have to be displaced during that time and go stay in a hotel or rent a different apartment during that time, there's no coverage for that if you don't have renter's insurance. So all renter's insurance policies are going to come standard with usually enough to get a couple of months of rent out of that, and that's not going to have any deductible tied to it. To me, that's one of the biggest reasons to have tenant insurance. The other pieces would be, obviously, there's liability coverage. That's going to cover you if you have a dog bite or somebody gets hurt on your property, or if you cause damage to the place where you're living or start a fire, anything like that. Anything that you can think of really is going to be covered under that liability portion of the policy. So there's quite a few different reasons to have these tenant policies. And I think it's really necessary for anybody.
Well, that's great, Al. We do get that question a lot. And what would happen, let's say, just as an example, I think you already answered the question, but what would happen if someone did catch a fire? You know, they caught a kitchen on fire because they were cooking and they left for a period of time, and we get that often where someone's appliance then catches on fire and it does damage to the drywall and stuff all around that. Now a tenant, because it was their fault, would be responsible for that damage. So how does that help with tenants insurance?
Sure. So yeah, basically without a tenant insurance policy, if I'm your tenant and I start a fire in the kitchen and cause a $50,000 claim, I have no coverage. So, and I am personally liable for that. So really the property owner at that point is going to be looking for who's going to be paying for this, right? And technically that should be me as the tenant. So by having that tenant insurance policy, let's say you have a $300,000 limit, you don't have to worry so much about it, of the damage that you could potentially cause to the unit. You're going to be taken care of by the insurance company. And really on the flip side too, let's say if something happens in the rental where you're living, and something happens with, let's say, the electrical, or there's some sort of issue with the home itself that's outside of your control, and you're displaced for that reason, at least on that side, you're going to have coverage again for that loss of use. So if it's something that happens to the dwelling that is out of your control, not your fault, you are also going to be covered there.
Great. How about liability as far as if a tenant has a guest over and something happens where the guest does something that either causes damage or is hurt,
right.
You know?
Right. So really two situations there. If you invite somebody into your home and let's say they cause a fire, it's going to be basically the same as if you did it. If it's somebody that you've invited into your home, you're going to be on the responsible side of that. Now on the flip side, if there's something where, let's say somebody comes over and they, make a bad step off of your staircase and sprain their ankle, something like that. There's another coverage on there that falls kind of under the liability area as well, just called medical payments. And we usually recommend that people have about $10,000 in coverage for that. It's a very inexpensive coverage to beef up if you want to. But that way, if somebody's hurt on your premises when you're renting, we're going to be able to pay for probably most of their hospital bills and things like that, which is also going to prevent them probably from trying to sue you and go after your big liability coverage. Yeah, so there is some, what we call it goodwill coverage for medical that's just going to take care of anybody that's your guest at the house.
Is there anything else our tenants should know about tenants insurance that we haven't covered?
If you have a dog, you got to get a little bit bigger policy. Yeah. We definitely recommend, at least $300,000, maybe even a $500,000 policy. Again, with tenants insurance, it's so inexpensive that if we want to go up to these higher limits of coverage that we recommend, we're talking about maybe $1 a month or something like that. It's very inexpensive, but you're better off to have even a little, maybe more insurance than you think you need than to be uninsured. And that way you're going to be able to be taken care of in the event of a claim, no matter what happens, whether it's your fault or the dog's fault or somebody else's fault. We just want to make sure that our tenants are taken care of.
Yeah, well, the pets is a good, so if it's a guest that brings a pet over, a dog over, and it happens and that dog's on your property, I would imagine it's like your dog. Also, if
Basically, yes.
somebody got hurt on your property because of a guest dog or something. So
Right.
anything that happens on that property, you're liable for. If it's
Exactly.
positive.
If it's a guest, if it's somebody that breaks into your house, is a little different.
Well, yes, that's true. That's
yes.
true.
But absolutely,
if someone does
you're
break
using
into the
responsibility.
property, since homeowners insurance doesn't cover your belongings, if someone did break into the property, of course, the owner would be responsible for the cost of, let's say, the door, the break-in, but
Correct.
anything inside of there then is also covered, that is stolen, is covered by tenants.
Yes. Your tenant policy will cover your personal property. So that could be all of your furniture, clothes, any valuables that you have in the house. That's going to be covered under your policy.
Great. So Al, how do our tenants get a hold of you?
Easiest way to get a hold of me is just give us a call here at the office. My number is 509-783-0586, or you can just shoot me an email. My email is al.moreno@countryfinancial.com.
And if you don't remember either of those, you can Google him at Country Financial, Al Moreno, and he will pop up and you can give him a call. He'll answer all your questions. So Al, thank you so much. That was really informative. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Great,
I appreciate it.
you.